We have with us today the Honorable Robert Blasi, retired judge of the Philadelphia Municipal Court. Judge Blasi, thank you so much for being here and assisting us in this project designed to preserve the rich history of the Philadelphia Municipal Court. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
We want to start by going all the way back to your beginnings. Why don't you tell us where you were born and raised? Tell us about your parents, your siblings.
Well, I was born in Nicetown, Philadelphia. To be exact, 2015 Denny Street, Dennie, and June 22nd, 1937. I was born to my parents. My mother was Alice Rose Tamaro. That was her maiden name. My father was Louis Blasi. My mother was born here. My father was born in Italy. And let's see, they were the youngest of two children. I have a sister. She's 6 years older than me. Her name is Mary. So we was born in Nicetown, lived in Nicetown for a good part of my life, early part of my life, I guess. I went to Edward T. Steele. I had to stop and think about it. Edward T. Steele Elementary School, about I think it was about 15th and Blavis Street in Nicetown. Also, walk to school, come back for lunch, walk back. You know, one of those kind of deals. And after Steele School, that was a sixth grade public school. Then I went to Gillespie Junior High.
Okay.
Gillespie's right off of Hunting Park in Clarissa, and it was right next to Simon Gratz. So I completed Gillespie, and then I went on to Simon Gratz. And that's where I went to high school, Simon Gratz.
Were you involved in any activities in high school?
Plenty. I was involved in plenty of activities. I had a lot of fun in high school. I was trying to think of it. I was a president of the Six Footers. There was a fraternity. I was on the Honor Society. I was on the staff, business staff of the Spotlight. That was a newspaper and a yearbook. I was on the yearbook staff. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. I was in politics, believe it or not. It was 11A. 11A, I think it had to be a Senate, the class senator. 11B, I was probably a judge because we had a Senate and we had a court in the school.
Wow. Okay.
12A, I was a vice president of school, the entire school. And 12B, I was the chief justice, believe it or not.
Is that right?
The school was unique. It was democratic. It was they had a Senate, had about 13 or 15 members, and it had a 7-member court with a chief justice, and I was the chief justice in the final year. When you're a president, vice president, or chief justice, you had to be voted in by the entire school. It wasn't just class. But each class had their own senators and judges.
Okay.
And if there was some infraction that was caused by one of the students in smoking in a bathroom or something, they would get it written up and it would go before the court.
Okay.
And we would determine whether they were guilty or not, and we would administer the sentence. And thankfully, the school was set up whereas the structure, the vice principal and the principal would back up the court. So we had the power at that time, you understand? And it worked relatively well. Worked well for the years I was there, anyhow, for 3 years. So I'm trying to think of what other activities I was on. I think basically that was it. So,
okay.
You know.
And from Gratz High School, where do you go to college?
Well, Gratz, I floundered a little bit. I did get an associate's degree in technology and architectural design. That's really thought I wanted to be. It was good at work as an engineer at that time. They didn't require a 4-year course to be an engineer. So I had that, and I got that in 1960, I believe. And I was working with a firm doing engineering. And I did that for like 20 years. I worked as an engineer. And then in 70, I think, I played around. I took my business degree in '70 out of Temple, and then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So I mean, at that in between there, I worked as an engineer. It's very successful too.
So 20 years before you go to law school, you were working as an engineer.
Yep.
And what were you doing?
Well, I was designing products. I was working on government contracts. I designed a number of things. It was really interesting, believe me, and exciting. Early in time, I was dealing with the military packaging. Like, people don't think it is, but when the military go to war and they need radios that work, they have to make sure that when they get to their destination, they work. I mean, they have all kinds of crystals inside. It's not like today that they have a cell phone. So it had to be packaged, and the packaging was such that it was, you don't think of putting it in a cardboard box, because it comes in by, if they're going to make a beachfront, they come in by boat. It's going to be wet, so it had to be waterproof, right? Had to be shockproof, and usually you had to fall off a truck, because the GIs would do that. They'd throw it off the truck. They're getting shot at. You know what I mean? And then when they open up the package, they had to get the phone out to use it. Things like that. All the equipment. I mean, it was fascinating. I remember once when President Kennedy was there. I was invited down to the White House to look at his equipment. They wanted my opinion, because that was my field. That was my specialty. And when the president traveled at that point, he had probably a room half the size of this, all with equipment that had to go with him, believe it or not. Not like today. They have cell phones and dedicated satellites, not at that time, because he had to be in touch with his people all over the world, and I was really proud that they asked me to come down, and I've been in some parts of the White House that other people have never been in, and they picked me up at Dulles, brought me back to Dulles, flew back, But I mean, that's the kind of things, doing military stuff. And then it got to the point where we wanted to develop a commercial product. So what I did, I developed a clothes carrier. And Tom, you know yourself, because you probably represented some people in retail theft in department stores and things. But most of the theft doesn't really come from that. Most of the theft comes from within. I can remember getting a call from Gimbel's in Pittsburgh, where they wanted to transport something from like the 8th floor to the 6th floor. By the time they got to the 6th floor, half of it was gone. Half of the merchandise was gone, especially like cosmetics and things, little things that they could hide, But it was big. I mean, a lot of stuff was falling off the truck, so it would leave the distribution center and not get to the stores. I'm not talking about entire shipments, but I'm talking a significant amount. So I developed an item, something you may have seen in years ago, outside of Gimbel's, not Gimbel's, outside. Well, on the street here was Wanamaker's here. They have these big containers, and these containers are on dollies and casters, and they're put into trucks. And I designed them so that the small container would be 3 across and 8 back, and it would be 24 containers on a truck, which would be sealed. So at the distribution center, they would put the clothes in, put a manifest on, and seal it. Nobody. If they broke that seal, we knew who broke it. You see what I mean? They deliver it to the department store, put it on the elevator, bring it right up on the floor, on the lobby, right on the floor where they're going to put it on the rack. So it went from distribution center to rack. No stops, no chance of getting stolen. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure. Now, you have this successful engineering business, and then you decide that let me go to...
Well, I decided to do something. I did it for 20 years. I mean, I was successful. I had a great job, great people to work for. It wasn't a question of money. It was, I just,
So you go to Temple, and you major in business?
I was majoring in business, yeah. But I was still applying everything. I was using everything that I was learning.
Right.
Because I was dealing in government contracts. I mean, I was actually applying everything. It wasn't like you go to school and then you hope to apply it. I was doing everything.
So then...
Dealing with all government agencies. You got to remember, the government buys everything from toothpicks to Tampax. They buy everything. I mean, everything imaginable all over the world. Now, these same containers, believe it or not, I used to go to IEEE Electronics Show, and we would then display our products. And one of the admirals or rear admirals from the Navy came along, and he was like the second or third guy that bought my product. I sold 26 of them to a department store in New Orleans, and then I met him. We met him at the show in New York, and what he did was he designed. He said, "Well, you have to bid on this." I said, "Well, nobody makes it like this." He says, "Well, then we'll have to put it out for bid." He says, "I need your specs." So I gave him the specs, and he came out with my specs. So actually, it was great. We sold him like 600 containers. I mean, big contract. It's a big contract. They went all over the world because they were used for the Navy PX for the same reason, for distribution of commerce. Navy PX is big.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, same as the Army PX. They're like department stores, and they were a department store. So it was fascinating. My containers went to Rhodes, Spain, to the Philippines, to Naples, Italy, all over the world. You know.
So how do we go from there to law school?
Transition to law school. Well, I'll tell you, it's like and it wasn't me to blame. I wanted to do something different. You know, I thought about going to the medical field, and then I said, you know, too many credits to make up. I'm tired of that. So Alice was working in the district attorney's office at the time. You heard her talking to Judge Collins, who was in the DA's office at the time, 1970 to 73. So I finished with my business degree, and she said, you know, I said, you know, I want to go forward. I want to do something else. I don't know what I want to do. She said, well, why don't you be a lawyer? I said, I don't know if I want to be a lawyer. And she says, well, look, you know, I work in the office. I see lawyers. I see all these things. You know, I think you would be good as a lawyer. I said, let me think about it. And I thought about it. And I applied to Temple, and they turned me down. You know, I had a degree, 2 degrees from Temple, you know, and they turned me down. I had good grades at Temple, you know. So
now Alice is your wife.
Alice is my wife.
Right.
So anyhow, I looked around. I said, all right, I wanted something. I wanted to go at night, obviously, because I didn't want to give up my job, you know, and because I had one. Let's see, no, at that time, I had no children, right? So, but I still didn't want to give them one. She said, why don't you go in the day? I said, nah, I'm playing around. I want to work. So I worked, and I went to what was called New Law School. It was a new law school, Delaware Law School, and it was in Wilmington, and it was just started. So as you know, it's not accredited. So until the first class graduates, and at that time it had to be accredited. So I went there. I decided to go to law school, and I did. And I had fun. And it was good. It was interesting and challenging. And then I graduated in 75. I went in 71.
You passed the bar.
75. No, I flunked the first time. I was the first person to flunk. I flunked by like 9 thousandths of a point. The first guy to
Wow.
and I should have taken appeal, but I was so irked at the time. I said, "How the hell with it?" I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll pass the next time." And I did with flying colors. I mean, you know, I thought a decent student.
And how did you begin your legal
And
career?
I began the legal career. Yeah.
And what did you do?
Well, I was too old to go with a firm, so I don't think I had much of a choice. So I figured I was pretty successful as an engineer. I thought I was, and I thought I could do things. So I thought, let me try my hand at working by myself. So I started working and getting the criminal appointments, and I started out very successful, really. I remember the first year I had like 13 PI cases, which I thought was
Wow.
tremendous. You know, I had a lot of friends, and a lot of people wanted to help me, and I had a friend who was, his name was Robert Schaefer. He was an attorney, and he was sort of like my mentor during law school, and we would discuss cases. I would go down and see him, and we'd talk about cases. He wanted to know my views, and I wanted to know his views, and that's how I really learned, you know. And so you understand, I'm older now. I'm like 37 years old. You know, I'm older. When I graduated, I figured nobody's going to pick up this old guy. And So it was good, and I kicked around for a couple years. It was like 76 to 78, and I started to work in politics too, helping. I was working with Al Pearlman, and in a political system, helping him in the office. He was the council person at large in Philadelphia at that point. And then in 70, I guess it was March, one day he said to me, he said, Bobby, I said, I want you to go down and go see the mayor. I said, what for? He said, don't worry about it. Just go see him. He wants to see you. So I go in, and they had an appointment for me. I go in and I see Mayor Rizzo. And Mayor Rizzo says, he talks to me, he's telling me about yourself. I told him a couple things about myself. He says, I want you to be on the zoning board in Philadelphia. Okay. I said, awesome. I said, great. I pinched myself because I really couldn't believe it. He says, I think you're just a guy I'm looking for. I said, he said, my only regrets are that I'm only going to be in office 2 more years. So you only have 2 years. And I said to him, Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure to work for you. It's an honor for me to work for you, especially from my background. And I said, I appreciate it even if it was 2 weeks. You know, I was sincere, you know. And as it was, I served 2 years under Rizzo and was reappointed by Bill Green, the next mayor coming in, for 3 years. So I spent 5 years, which was a pretty long time for a political appointee. And when Mayor Rizzo did appoint me, I was the acting chairperson of the board, because G. Fred DeBona, I don't know if you remember G. Freddy.
Yes.
His father was G. Fred DeBona also. Mm-hmm. But G. Fred DeBona later became head of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Right. At that time, he was the chairman of the zoning board, so I took over after Freddie. I'll call him Freddie, I know, because he was in my class. He was in my class, law school. So I took over after Freddie, and then from there, well, at that point he went to the Port Corporation, but I stayed on the zoning board, and I learned a lot. I mean, I learned how to handle people as a chairperson. I learned real fast, actually, because some of those cases had 100, 200 people coming in protesting. Most of them were protesters. They weren't amicable. They were sort of hostile. So you had to know how to handle them, and it was very interesting. And I learned a lot at the zoning board. I heard probably, in nature, probably close to 9,000 zoning cases.
Wow.
Probably.
That's something.
You know, and that was like a jump start.
Mm-hmm.
That was a jump start, because I was gaining knowledge, I was gaining money, I established myself as being able to handle somewhat of a public, you know, in the arena. It was interesting too. It was interesting. I love zoning. It was good, and I love real property, so it fitted right in with my practice.
Now, you were a judge and chief justice in high school.
Yeah.
And then we're 20, 30 years later. Had you ever thought about becoming a judge?
Never wanted to be a judge.
Never wanted to be a judge?
Never, had no aspirations. I know people that graduate law school, they want to be a judge before they become a lawyer.
Right.
I had no aspirations of being a judge.
So how did that come about?
I was making money. We were doing good. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed the practice of law. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed the practice of law in municipal court. I loved municipal court.
Okay.
Municipal court was the nicest court, I believe, to work in. It was a friendly court. The people were nicer. The judges weren't as serious. You know, it was not that I take it back. It wasn't that they weren't serious. They were a little more
cordial.
Cordial. Good word.
Okay.
Cordial. I think it. Yeah. It was like a meltdown level compared to going into a CP courtroom. I often said that, you know, I would go to sleep, and you know, when I tried a case in CP, it was like going to sleep in between questions. You know, whereas in municipal court, it was rapid fire. You know that for experience, because you've been there enough times.
So how does the judgeship come up?
Well, let's see. Here's how it happened. It was really ironic how it happened. Funny. So that was in 1983. I spent 5 years on the board. It was March of '83. '83. So I leave the zoning board and I go back and I say, Al, I'm back again. I'm going to help you. And I was helping him in the Roxborough office, and I was opening it and closing it for him, and I was interviewing people and trying to help people, and I did all that, and then 84, I guess it was 84, the winter of '84, and Alice said to me, she said, Al Pearlman's sick. I said, what do you mean Al Pearlman's sick? She said, I never seen him wear a coat, at a time. He said he was wearing a big coat. I said, nah, it's nothing. So people started coming to me and said, Bobby, you got to run against Al Pearlman for ward leader. Why? He's sick. I said, no, it never happened. I will never run against Al Pearlman. He's my friend. I don't do things like that. So lo and behold, tragedy, and it happened about June of '84. Al Pearlman did have cancer. After that, the committee people, friends started coming to me and said, we want you to take Al's place. I said, wait, I'm not prepared to run for council. Forget that. He said, no. We want you to run for ward leader. I said, okay. So I said, who's going to run? And I found out later that Joe Rocks was running.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
So here it goes again. So we have this, Joe Rocks wants to run for ward leader. The Mayor Good was in favor of Joe Rocks. City committee was in favor of Joe Rocks. So here I am. I said, I'll run, but I don't want you to put me out on a limb and cut the limb. If you're going to support me, I want you to support me. 21st Ward was one of the biggest wards in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It had 45 divisions, 90 committee people. It was a strong ward. So I said, okay, I'll run. And people would stop me on the street and say, Bobby, you're nuts. Bobby, you're nuts. You're nuts. So we had a pretty good fight. And on June 27th, I think it was 1984, I beat Joe Rocks 45-27.
Wow.
Which was a big thing. I remember Judge Coppolino, who was a Republican representative before he became a judge on municipal court, said to me, he said, Bobby, he stopped me in front of the City Hall Annex, which is the building across from us, now a hotel. He said, you know what you did? I said, no, Judge, what did I do? He said, you knocked a knight in shining armor off a white horse. I mean, that was the dynamics of the politics in those days. So I won, and we worked that ward. We worked that ward very hard. I mean, my wife helped me all the way. We would go door to door with my committee people and supported the candidates, and we continued building the ward. I can't say that I changed the ward over because Al Pearlman did that. He was working to change the ward over. That was a very strong Republican ward at that time, controlled by the Hamiltons, going way back. As a matter of fact, I often said the Hamiltons had the cows registered Republican, because if you go up to Roxborough, you see a lot of cows and the farm school and things.
That's right.
And it was country. It was actually country, and they had control. Believe me, there was a lot of control, and he was quite upset because we were working hard. But I stayed at it. I was working hard at it, and helping Chairman Brady, because Brady came in after that as chairman, and I worked as a ward leader all those years, and I continued my practice, and I never thought about being a judge. I never wanted to be a judge.
So what caused you to go from not wanting to be a judge to
being a judge? Nick D'Alessandro, Judge D'Alessandro, who was also in the municipal court, kept on bugging me, Bobby, you have to be a judge. I don't want to be a judge, Nick. I'm happy the way I am. He says, it's good. It's good for you. You deserve it. I said, well, I'm not interested. So Chairman Brady said to me one time, he said, Bobby, he says, when you want to be a judge? He said, I have a slot open for a Court of Common Pleas. And I didn't want to be a judge. I said, Bobby, I said, no, I don't want to be a judge. I said, but I didn't want to tell him point blank. I said, look, I don't want to be a CP judge. I said, if you ever get an MC judge, call me. But I figured he would never get an MC judge because the chances were like 7-1 at that time. You remember those days? They had like 120, 130 CP judges and like 20 MC judges. So it was like 7-1. So I figured he's never going to get an MC judge. So this went on, and then so he thought I was nuts actually for turning down a CP judge. So, but I didn't want it. I obviously didn't want it. Don't forget, I had 2 children then, 73 and 76. My 2 boys came along, but in 1981, I guess it was, he approached me, and he said, "Can I see you?" I said, "Sure." So I can go and see the chairman, and he said, "We have a slot available for MC judge." I said, "Oh, sugar, what am I going to say now?" I said, "Well," he said, "You take it, right?" I said, "I'll let you know." He said, he started laughing. And you could ask him this day. He laughed. He said, "What do you mean you'll let me know?" I said, "Bobby," I said, "I can't just decide to be a judge." I said, "I have to talk to my wife. And my wife is my wife, primarily. She's my law partner. I mean, it's our lifestyle that's going to change."
Right.
I have one my boy was going to college at the time. So I said, I have to make a decision, He said, "How much time you need?" I said, "Give me a couple of weeks." He said, "I'll give you a week." He said, "Otherwise, I got 12 guys lined up that'll take his job without hesitation."
Right.
So I went home and I talked to my wife and I said, "Well, it's an opportunity." And actually, at that time, we were working hard and we were working long hours between the political arena and between the private practice, which was successful. We were probably working 18 hours a day, both of us. I mean, her and I both. She would do all the paralegal stuff, or she would handle a case to settlement, believe it or not. She would do a lot of that stuff. So obviously everything was going to change, and that's what happened. So I said, okay, we'll decide. And I ran for judge, and I won, to my surprise.
So tell us about your experience on municipal court. What accomplishments, what your favorite things about being a municipal court judge?
I loved municipal court. I loved it. I thought it was a great court. I mean, I really treasured all the time I was in the court. And I was certified also from the day I was elected a municipal court judge. I was certified to sit as a CP judge because of my experience. I had numerous cases, a lot of experience in court. And I was certified to sit by the president judge of CP to hear municipal court cases on appeal to CP. At that time, we handled those cases, and I handled a lot of them, and I liked it. And so I sat on that court also, so I understand both parts of both courts. But I love municipal court. I love the people that were working there, because when I practiced, I knew them all personally. And first, I was on the court about 6 years, I would guess. From '92, I was elected in November '91. January 6th, I guess it is, around there, we take the oath of office of '92 and '98. So for those six years, I worked whatever they gave me. I didn't care where I sat. I sat in every assignment. I loved it, and I got along good, and I enjoyed it. I remember Silverstein saying to me, "Where do you want to sit first?" I said, 11th and Winter. He said, "Why 11th and Winter?" I said, "Because I think that's one of the most difficult assignments." I mean, I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
It was a district. And I sat there and I did. I got done like about 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock, I guess. I felt good about it. I enjoyed it. Stopped by the Asian different bakeries and picked up some bakery and came home. I loved it. And so it was easy. Everything was downhill from there. That was probably the hardest assignment. And I had sat there with Cosgrove like the week before, 2 weeks before, and he on the bench. He sort of brought me up there and during his hearings, and I was seeing what he was doing. That was my learning. That was my learning right there. So that's how it started out. So I was on various assignments. No matter what they gave me, I didn't care. I was capable of doing it. And then getting to accomplishments in I guess it was October 97. Let's see. 98. October 98. I'd say 98 to 2002. Would that be 5 years? 98? Yeah. So 2002. 98. I get a call from the Supreme Court. They wanted to see me. So there was members of the Supreme Court. At that time, there was 3 members of the Supreme Court in Philadelphia, if you recall. Justice Newman, Justice Castile, and Justice Nigro. And Justice Nigro called me and told me that they were going to appoint an administrative judge to municipal court, the first administrative judge ever appointed to municipal court. And they asked if I would take the assignment. And I said, well, what's it going to entail? He said, well, you're going to have the power. There's some things that need to be done there, and we think you're the right person to do it. So I understood. I had an in-depth conversation with him with what had to be done, what I thought was needed to be done at the time, and I accepted. And then I was appointed the administrative judge.
How did your duties change as a result?
Well, they changed dramatically because then I inherited all the power. All the power was transformed from the president judge to me as the administrative judge. And I had all the hiring and firing, all personnel. I had the $10 million budget. I had all the people under me. I had complete reign, and I was not, unlike a president judge who's beholden to his court who votes for him. I only had the Supreme Court to vote for me. There's guys in Harrisburg, and they gave me free reign, and they told me, just do the right thing. And they echoed exactly what Rizzo told me when he put me on the zoning board. Just do the right thing. And he said the same thing. Just do the right thing. That's what we want you to do. And I took that very seriously. What I did. And I started. I had a lot of morale building to do. A lot of changes had to be made. And I did what I had to do as an administrative judge, and I did that. And one thing I recognized, though, that we weren't truly equipped, Tom. We weren't truly equipped to handle the amount of work that we had. At that time, we had about 60,000 criminal cases.
Right.
And we had a load, let me tell you. It's not like today. But I wasn't concerned with the criminal side just yet. I was worried about the civil side. We had about 120,000 cases that we had to handle. We couldn't handle with our personnel. We couldn't do it. The city was filing 50, 60,000 cases. And at that time, I sat, like I said, civil, and criminal, and civil. I know what the city was doing. The city was filing 5 and 6 complaints against one party. They have somebody on a code enforcement. They filed 6 complaints. They weren't paying for it. They weren't paying for the filing. They weren't paying for the service because they were the city. So they were abusing the system. Meanwhile, the court had to do all that work. We weren't equipped for that. There was 50,000 There was 50,000 small claims. There was probably 25,000 landlord and tenants. Volume. I said, this isn't going to work anymore. I said, we can't handle this. And I could see it as a judge. It was ridiculous.
So how did you change that?
Well, what I decided was that we have to make a change, and we have to look towards the future. And this is probably my biggest accomplishment, one of my biggest accomplishments. I designed a claim system in municipal court. I don't know whether you know that or not, but that was my invention. That was my baby. I decided that we were going to do it electronically. I went out to different firms that had different equipment. I thought about scanning and this and that. And I started thinking this through. Some agencies in other parts of the country, they had material faxed into them, and then they had people data putting it into the file. We had a data division in municipal court. They couldn't keep up with the work. They was always behind, like 5 days behind. I said, this isn't going to work. So I put my engineering skills, my engineering cap back on, and I said, this is what we're going to do. And I laid it out, I designed it, and I met up with a company by the name of Verilog in the year 2000, and I told them they were computer experts. I said, this is what I want to do. Can it be done? And I said, yeah, it can be done. I said, well, this is what I want to do. And I laid it all out, and had a good deputy, and we did it. We did it. We the first case went out. Let's see. This gives you some idea of what we did. This is civil claims. This is the claims civil litigation automated internet municipal system. That's the acronym for the claim system. And what we did was the first filing. It took about a year and a half. Let's see if I have dates on there. You know, April 13th, 2000, the first case was filed electronically via the web. So I took office as administrative judge in October of '98.
Okay.
And I decided this was going to work. They thought I was nuts. I went into the civil division, and I got everybody in the room over there in the biggest courtroom, and I said to them, today is Tuesday. Friday, as of Friday, you will no longer have a typewriter. And there were gasp in the room. Gasp. What do you mean no typewriter? We're going to have a computer. Oh, I don't know how to do that. We're going to train you. I said, but I'm going to make you a few promises. First promise is nobody's going to get fired because of the lack of knowledge. I'm going to train you, all right? Nobody's going to get laid off either because we're developing these new skills. So I gave them assurances that everything was going to work, and it worked out. And the first courtroom to hear cases without paper was September 2001. Claims official CMS for 2002.
So from April 13th of 2000, when the first case was filed, until summer of 2003, the MC Civil Court went completely electronic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how long did you remain as administrative judge after?
2002. October 2002.
Okay. And you stayed on the court?
I stayed on 5 years there, and I stayed on the court till I was 70. You had to retire, be a commission judge. You can't be a commission judge after 70 years old at that time.
Right.
So this was the biggest thing. This was the first in the nation. I went all over to talk about it. I went to Las Vegas, talked about it. It was a big conference there. I talked to them in Baltimore at the convention center. Let's see. I wrote Justice Cappy here. 2000. This one was the first one. Pennsylvania National, went to Nevada, Las Vegas, December 6th to 8th to 2000. There's a letter I told him, kept him advised as the administrative judge.
Right.
You know, that what I did. It was 2000, 2001. I think this was the
What year?
Baltimore. And we won a big award for that. We were
Oh,
the
I'm
first court
sure.
in the nation.
Yeah.
The Newman, I think Newman, one of the awards, it was a big award that got it in Baltimore. It was a big award. I mean, it was the first in the nation. I mean, my speech was translated into Russian and Spanish, the one in Las Vegas, believe it or not. And the one in Baltimore was just Spanish, I believe. But we had correspondents from London, England. They wanted to know about the system. The Chief Justice of Alberta was in Las Vegas. He talked to me about it. She wanted to know about it. I mean, it was tremendous publicity for the court.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, municipal court was just.
So what
great.
year did you retire from municipal court?
17, I think.
2017?
27. I
And-
had to stop and think. I had to stop and think, Tom,
But,
because I had to get out at 78.
right, because
I was
you
born
continued
to
as senior judge, right?
Continued as senior judge, yeah.
Yeah, and are you doing that now?
No, I'm out altogether.
Okay, okay.
Altogether.
Well, Judge Blasi, I want to thank you for that wonderful interview and all of your accomplishments and what you've done for the Philadelphia Municipal Court. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all right, for the interview.